great day for work here at the Happy Healthy Workplace podcast. I'm Kimberly Ficklin, your host. And every week we talk to professionals just like you all around the world because we want to find out what they do to create a profitable business, the kind of business where people really want to work. Hello and happy healthy day, everyone. Today's episode, we are talking everything snacks, but really we're going deep today on why it's important to create a healthy eating environment in your workplace and even now in your hybrid workplace. Now, today we're talking with Sonny Drinkwater, one of the founders of Snackcess. And Snackcess' mission, to put it simply, is to simplify healthy living. They want to create a world where people feel capable and motivated to make healthy lifestyle choices that make them feel happier. At Snackcess, everything they do revolves around making health simple for people. To do this, they strive to achieve two things. First, educate people about healthy living in simple and easily understandable ways. And second, to provide the products and services that allow people to execute on this. Now, today we're talking with one of the founders, Sonny Drinkwater, but I don't want to leave out the other two founders because they couldn't make it today. And that's Joshua Barley and Kiren Fitzgerald. Alrighty, well, welcome everybody. Happy healthy day. And today we're talking to Sonny Drinkwater. Sonny is the co-founder of a company called Snackcess. And the reason why I reached out to Sonny on LinkedIn, somehow, some way, one of my connections, that he had either written something that compelled me or inspired me, as much of our guests do. And I reached out and said, hey, I think this is a really great conversation to have. It's not a topic that we've had here on the podcast before. So I think it's a really interesting thing to talk about, and we're going to learn more here from Sonny in just a minute. So Sonny, first, thank you for being a guest and welcome to the Happy Healthy Workplace podcast.
Thank you very much for having me on.
You are very welcome. I think this is a really interesting topic. Again, today, people know because I title it such that they will understand what we're talking about right away. But first, I just want you to tell me a little bit about Snackcess and why you and your co-founder decided that this was an important company to build, and also why it's an important company to basically spread the word of right now in this day and age.
For sure. So Snackcess itself is part of a personal mission of mine and my co-founders, as well as something that's we kind of built because it's quite relevant to the times at hand. So going back to the start, ever since from a young age, I've always been kind of interested in health and fitness and health and well-being, but never sort of to a large extent. But in my first year at university, I couldn't do any of the sports I wanted to do because of an injury. I couldn't row and I couldn't play football. And I got very heavily into the gym and fitness and dieting and nutrition. And I had a holiday coming up that year. And it was the first time I'd ever kind of really got into kind of reducing what I was intaking, my foods and stuff. And I was trying to look good for the holiday, and I was trying to get lean for the holiday and also to kind of look good. And, you know, it was quite a good change for me at first. I felt quite proud of what I was doing. I went away on that holiday feeling quite good about myself. But when I came back from that holiday, it was the biggest wake-up call potentially of my life, to be honest. For the life of me, I couldn't eat any more food than I wanted to eat. You know, I felt too guilty eating more food. And, you know, I'm a 6'3", like I used to row when I was younger. And I went for a long while restricting calories and not being able to eat too much. And it took a long while, but I eventually sort of into my second year, I managed to build back up some level of understanding about nutrition and where I wanted to be in terms of my goals and my health. And I built a more sort of balanced approach. And it wasn't really anything to do with the food I was eating. It was more of how I looked at it. And my co-founder, Josh, actually had quite a similar story in his first year of university. He actually felt ill and had an operation, which really kind of shook him up to kind of think about the foods he was eating and how they interacted with the body and how they could help him heal. And on the top of that, he became obsessed with sort of healthy foods and supplements and stuff that really optimized his body. So the two of us kind of kept in touch throughout university for just a love of food and the interplay it had in our body and the way it made us feel and how it helped our work more so than anything, because we were both quite entrepreneurial during university. And obviously, given everything that's going on with the pandemic and COVID-19 this year, about 5 months ago, we kind of got together and we decided that out of university, we were going to launch our first business. We wanted it to be something that we were both insanely passionate about, something that was close to both of us, something that we kept in touch with, and food, nutrition, and a healthy lifestyle was just paramount to both of us. And it came at such a right time and an opportune time with, people working from home, and obviously the pandemic was on the rise, and unhealthy habits at home were growing. We saw an article by the BBC that spoke about unhealthy snacking at home. And so we kind of there decided that, our mission would be that we would want to simplify healthy living. And where would the first place be to do that? Well, if you take an existing habit like snacking and show someone how you can make it healthier, you kind of inspire them to make the changes in their life to see that it's actually quite simple to live a little bit healthier. And the more steps we take, we get this sort of flywheel effect where, healthier eating leads to a little bit more training, at least a little bit more focus in other parts of their life. And you get this flywheel of healthy living. So our main goal with Snackcess and everything we're doing at this moment in time is to just simplify that for people and create the solutions that allow it to be simplified.
Wow, that is a great mission. I mean, what a better thing than to do what you're passionate about. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting now that sometimes I think it's kismet why we meet people, are connected with people, and or that we're drawn to the same type of energy. I had the same interest after getting diagnosed with a chronic illness and being told that was like my life, 12 medications and going to be ill forever. I also went down this path of healthy living, supplementation. I weaned myself off of all my medications and used supplementation to do that. And then went further in before getting my total worker health certification for workplace well-being. I worked as a certified nutritionist and clinical weight loss coach. So it's really interesting that, and so I have the same passions, right, with healthy living and supplementation and teaching people how to eat right and take care of themselves. And I agree with you 100% that when you give people, the little bits that they need, that then it becomes like a snowball effect, right? And then that way they can just continue to be utilizing healthy living. And also, I think that even just something as small as healthy snacks, that's like a nudge or a cue, which is something we talk about a lot of times, right? So if you're eating your healthy snack, that's a nudge into the next healthy behavior.
Yeah, for sure. And just to build on top of that, it's not that probably makes it sound really simplistic what we're doing, as if, the snacks are going to change everyone's habits. And it's not necessarily the case, because as you say, like sometimes you need that bit of individual interest or something has to happen for you to start to really kind of look into and explore your nutrition and how it interplays with the body. But at a sort of a deeper level, there's more information out there than ever before in terms of how nutrition really, really benefits us. And we live in a society that unfortunately we look at the symptoms of problems. We don't really understand too much about the cause and the lifestyles that actually really lead to those problems. I would never take away and discredit sort of what medicine does for us. It's an amazing thing. But it's just the interplay of looking at sort of the lifestyle and how someone lives, looking at how nutrition has a role in that. And you can actually do it yourselves as you sort of learn yourself. You can kind of understand the basics yourself. Obviously, it's amazing to have nutritional support, and it's very much needed. But there's a lot out there to kind of educate yourself on it. And, I think we're living in a time when there needs to be a real shift now to looking at a lifestyle change as opposed to just treating the symptoms.
Very well said. That is so true. That's exactly the reason why I changed, because again, I was really handed just like a death sentence, or a life sentence. I don't know how you would want to say it, right? Yeah. And then I was like, no, since this gets marked as a clean podcast, I'll say BS. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to live that way. And just decided to learn about things I had no idea. I tell my husband now, if I knew there was such thing as a nutritionist, when I got sick 12 years ago, I really had no idea. No doctors told me to look at my diet or any of that. That's a whole nother story. But what it makes me think is that I had blinders on when I was in the corporate environment, when I was in the workplace. And I've talked about this on the podcast before. Our equity is only what our employer says it is via insurance or whatever, right? Like you have these benefits and then we only go out and get that stuff. We don't pay extra or invest in ourselves to hire a nutritionist that might cost us actual money, or go hire a personal trainer because it costs us money, right? And we're like, we're not that valuable, because our employer says that, I can only do X, Y, and Z. So taking some individual responsibility for that, right? And stepping out into what is healthy, what is a good lifestyle to be in, and have it be individualized. Because that's one thing I think is really important, is people want to put a one size approach fits all on weight loss and health. And it's really person to person, and you have to find out what works best for you.
Completely agree. It's very individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting that both of us went from a nutrition into a bigger workplace environment. So let's talk about that a little bit, Sonny, because that is the reason why I was interested in talking to you. I have a couple stories of clients, and I'll just start out with one of them. When I was doing nutrition, lunch and learns and campaigns, I had a client who was trying to do all the right things. I was working with the HR director and the safety director, and they were really driving a well-being program in the workplace. And they had worked with some feedback surveys from their employees to build this really cool little high-tech healthy snack station. But with that said, one of the executives of the company knew someone had an in to Red Bull, and they were being given like free cases of that. So they were giving it to the employees for free. The people working the well-being program said, we can't keep doing this, because as long as you offer it to them for free, they're going to drink 5 of them a day, and they're really unhealthy. And it's contrary to what we're trying to do with this well-being program. Yeah. So the executive said, well, we're not going to stop doing it. As we learn in this business that some executives can get very stuck in their ways. We'll just charge $1 for it. Well, that didn't really change anything, because $1 doesn't anything either, right? So what's interesting to me is that we still have this almost like a power struggle in the workplace for what is healthy and what isn't, and how to provide good, healthy snacks in the workplace. So first of all, Sonny, tell me how you got from, okay, we're really interested in nutrition and supplementation and now healthy eating, into when you recognized that things like what I just described are happening in the workplace, and you and your co-founder really needed to step into that.
Yeah, for sure. So as I said, we had a mission and we had a passion, and it was how would we best apply it to that? So, we kind of spent a lot of time thinking, okay, a lot of people are at home at the minute, a lot of people are snacking. What is something we can create that makes it super, super easy for them to reach for a healthy snack instead of the unhealthy snack that might be in their house? And how can we make that an affordable thing for companies to do? Because I think, building on what you just mentioned there, it's such a hard thing today. Most people you talk to about healthy living and healthy eating, the first answer, and often it's quite a simple throwaway answer, is that it's just so expensive. And it's a hard thing to shake this perception of expense when it comes to healthy living and healthy eating. But people don't realize that at this moment in time, it's a hard one, because, you're paying more for the value of what you get. And this is something that we hold ourselves account to at Snackcess. All of our snacks have got, we have a list of banned ingredients that unfortunately things like Red Bull wouldn't even make it anywhere near that list. But we taste test all the snacks, and we make sure they've got the best ingredients in them. And that's where the real value comes in at this moment in time for companies, because it's unfortunate that we live in a society at this moment in time where those healthy snacks and healthy living isn't as yet as high demand as it should be. We would love to make healthy living the norm, and it's our goal to one day, but at this moment in time it's not. So it's hard until that becomes the norm for these prices to come down to the snacks. But you then really have to look at what the offer is and the return on investment is. People spend about 2,000 in the UK. People spend about 2,000 hours a year in their workplace. Obviously, that's either at home now or in the office. And it's one of the best places where you can really get an ROI on feeding your workforce with the healthy snacks that boost their productivity. But this is the World Health Organization. It's not us that have come up with stats that healthy living for your workforce boosts the productivity by 20%. It reduces absenteeism, and the long-term effects completely outweigh any sort of cost that might cross your mind about healthy snacking being considered expensive at this moment in time. So the ROI is just phenomenal, and the workplace for us was the best place we wanted to tackle and put our passions towards, because it was such a communal thing. 20% of your life is spent at work, if not more for some people. And whether you're in the office or at home, our boxes, the main thing we preach to companies is that it's a shared experience. And if I experience something on my own, I don't remember it as well as I experience it with my friends or with my colleagues. It's that shared experience that really, really, really creates that vibrant energy around healthy eating, healthy living, and the will and inspiration to kind of continue that trend. And it's just something that becomes quite personal to people. We've Snackcess ourselves. We try and encourage snack breaks with companies that we work with, so we can either jump on a call with them, or we encourage them to get on a call with some of their colleagues if they're still working from home, and just recreate those water cooler moments, but talk about the healthy snacks they've had. And we can assure most of these people that our snacks are incredibly tasty and they're a very good conversation starter. But the main premise that we want to get across for companies is that for now and everything that's going on, the ROI for investing in the health and well-being of your workforce not only improves their mental health, which is such a big cause of absenteeism in the UK, and even there's a term that we kind of throw around, especially as HR, which is presenteeism. And this idea that people still show up for work, but they're not feeling themselves and they're not feeling the best. And snacks and things like Red Bulls and stuff, they give you an energy rush for about an hour, but the crash is just phenomenal. And you've got to think of the long-term investment you're making as a company right now. And there's no better place to do that than a healthy solution, sort of like healthy eating, healthy snacking, and just healthy stuff in the workplace, because it's an all-round thing. Like the relationship between nutrition, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your productivity, it's actually in science now, and it's coming more and more to the fore with the 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut, and serotonin, for those that don't know, is the happy hormone. It makes you feel good, and it's such an important thing for companies to really invest in these sort of things now.
Yeah, it is. It is very, very important, because I think that sometimes employers don't think some things are their responsibility to do, sure. Right? And maybe providing snacks might be one of those. But what I really love that you just brought up was creating those water cooler moments. So you're doing something just above and beyond just providing a box of snacks to a workplace. Sonny, you're actually providing an experience. And we've talked about this so many times on the podcast, creating space for human connection around a healthy habit.
For sure, because it's so much easier for someone to get on board with something that they see their colleagues and stuff doing. The influence of a community is such an important part to not just healthy living, but also, the adoption of new habits comes mostly from those that are around you. And for us, it's, as you say, these water cooler moments, and our mission is above and beyond just snacks. Snacks is the starting point for us. Mm-hmm. It's our demonstration really to companies that a small investment into healthy snacking can really have a great ROI. But it's part of our mission of creating healthy habits and simplifying healthy living, just to kind of show people that, the adoption of these habits, it does have this flywheel effect, and community in the workplace and these water cooler moments and everything else we kind of encourage on top for our content, for the other stuff we put out. It's so valuable to these sort of companies now that want to really invest and look after their teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes so much sense. Well, I want to loop back around to something else you said that gets tripped up. This word, every time I say it, people don't really understand what it means. Cool. And that's presenteeism.
Yes.
We talk a lot about absenteeism. We talk a lot about turnover. We talk about illness. We talk about, people calling in sick, but we don't talk about presenteeism. So little that people, when I say it, people really don't understand what it means. And you defined it well there. But just to drive that point here, when I go in to my clients and I am doing like an organizational wellness audit, one of the first things I do is talk to the executive about, if I were to go out to your office floor, however you have it set up right now, and I ask Susie or John or, anyone else, say I just went to one person and I said, point out to me the person who comes late to work, who seems to have a bad attitude, who you always have to do, some of their work to get it through. And everybody would be able to point those people out in the office. It would be easy, right? And sure. And what happens instead is that we focus on those people not doing their job properly. So it must be a lack of intelligence or skill or whatever. But in fact, it could be presenteeism. And what that means is that we don't know what is happening to them when they're at home right now. We don't know what their circumstances are at home, what stressors they have. We don't know if they're really ill with maybe a silent illness that we are not aware of, right? Or they just have so much stress and they're not a good communicator, so they don't get their needs met at work, right? All these things are presenteeism. And it absolutely 100% affects your bottom line, because it is the worst killer of productivity ever, is to have an unhappy, and you can say sick, but mental illness is sick, and even depression and anxiety and all that is parts of mental illness as well. So all of those things play a part in what this is, presenteeism, meaning showing up to work, but not really showing up to work.
Exactly.
In its simplest form.
Yeah, and it's such a big problem that often goes very unnoticed, and it's kind of a hard one to trace. And because again, it comes down to that sort of, it's the individual's lifestyle, and it's how you relate to that individual outside of the workplace and within the workplace. And I'm sure you'd agree, Kimberly, that health is not, it's not just a one thing. Like, you can't just eat better for health. It's a lifestyle thing. It's your sleep that you have. It's the purpose you feel. It's your movement in the day. It's your energy level. It's your nutrition as well. And it comes as a balance. And it's time for employees to really kind of try and recognize as best as they can how that affects the presenteeism of their workforces, because it's hard to monitor them outside of work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not all the employer's responsibility. So we talk about this a lot. I'm always saying, I know the executive is like, another thing I need to worry about. So what you're doing is you're fostering an environment where healthy living is a commitment, right? And then you're fostering an environment where individual responsibility. So you're taking on your employee responsibility as to what you provide to your workplace that stimulates them, gives them creativity, psychological safety, compassion, those types of things. As well, then you're also empowering them to take individual responsibility, because you can't, I love that you brought that up. You could put everything in place in a workplace and still have some people that don't latch on. That's because we would expect that, because I think in that scenario, as employers, we're expecting that we put this all out there and everybody latches on. And then we drive that. Like, we're doing all the healthy, instead of trying to have people accept individual responsibility of it and then take that into their life.
For sure. And it's such a big part. And it's kind of that level of inspiration that we try to create with the healthy snacking. The snacks are there to provide a tool, they're to really kind of engage your workers and to let them live a little bit healthier for something that's quite tasty. Like, a lot of these snacks taste awesome, but they're there as inspiration for us and our wider mission of demonstrating that, you can live a healthier life for a lot more simple than you think, and trying to encourage that onus that, because it's a shame that sometimes, as I said to you at the start of this, the podcast, we both have things that have gone on that have kind of woken us up to the importance of food and looking after your lifestyle and health and nutrition and stuff. But for some people, and it's a great thing that nothing bad in their life happens that way. But it's really important that they kind of remember that it's a good thing to look after and nurture, and it's trying to create that way to inspire them to do so. And take that individual onus combined with a little bit of support is kind of the best way for people to adopt these habits.
Completely agreed. My mantra is be proactive, not reactive about your health. We all are. I mean, look, there's three of us that we just proved we're more reactive about it than we were proactive, right? Because something happened that we had to be a little more proactive. But I've said it a million times before, even with my own nutrition clients in private nutrition, is people always wait until they get sick. I did. And I say, here's what I have to say though, is that I was not sick the day before I got sick. Right? Yeah. I was, because everything's happening in our body physiologically, before it, like the day you wake up sick. But what I'm saying is,
you didn't believe you were sick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Enough to take care of myself, enough to stop and do self-care, enough to have good interactions in my workplace, to get my needs met in my workplace, to not let people abuse me in the work. I didn't know all those things, right? So being proactive, not reactive about the mental health, wellness, and healthy lifestyle that you create in your workplace is very, very important. So
simple, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to tie this back to another story real quick about a client, because I think I'm going to ask you a question at the end of it. I think you're going to be able to help us with this challenge that I see when I go into my clients' offices. So I don't know, a couple of years ago, I was offering, we still offer this at the Happy Healthy Workplace, but I have a sugar detox lunch and learn. And it used to be like
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Thanks. Used to be one of the biggest, the biggest draws. Like, everybody wanted the sugar detox. It makes sense. We don't quite understand how to get rid of sugar in our diet. So that's great. But what I always do at the end of any program, including just a lunch and learn, is to survey and get feedback from the attendees. And what the attendees at this specific employer, my client, I had gone several times, and every survey said the same thing. No matter how many times I spoke with the client, I could not get them to make this change. They said, So this doesn't really make so much sense why we're having a sugar detox lunch and learn, which they loved the idea of that. But they're like, and then they just gave us a pizza bar. And then the other time it was like a loaded baked potato bar or something. And they thought it was ludicrous. Like how disconnected is this? And here's why this is so important. What we talk about, Sonny, is because it has to be connected. It has to come from the top down. The whole company has to have this mission of healthy living and commitment to changing the way things have been done in the workplace all the time. Otherwise, you always are going to have this disconnect. And when you have that type of disconnect, people don't really listen. So you're spending money on a lunch and learn that likely isn't going to get any traction.
Yeah.
So talk to us with that said, the question is, tell us why you think that is important to bridge that disconnect. Why is that important? And then tell us what's in your boxes. First of all, what kind of things come in your box and how they stimulate conversation.
Yeah, for sure. It's a case of, I guess the big words that we found, Kimberly, is it's convenience with people, and it's making something easy to adopt. Again, like I've probably said the mission 1,000 times, it's probably written on my head at this point, but we want to simplify healthy living. And that's really the only real way you can do it, is to break down these sort of barriers to entry. If you give someone a choice at this moment in time between something they're used to, they know the taste of, and something new that's a healthy treat, I would be very, very surprised. It takes some level of personal interest to choose the healthy option. But it's important for employees to, as you say, to connect to this idea of, no, we're gonna hold firm, and we're gonna be healthier, and we're going to create the space where most things are healthy. It encourages a healthy living all round, and we take that temptation away, and we make it easier than ever. And as part of what we're doing in our box is another thing we're looking at is we want all of our community members to have access to some of the discounts and coupons we have for some of these healthy brands we endorse, because we work with a lot of like suppliers of snacks, and we're looking to expand that out to include a lot more people that we kind of verify as being healthy living and stuff. And we've got a board of nutritionists that we work with that also work with us to verify these places, and we want to really give these brands a sense of messaging in our box. And it comes back to that barrier to entry, and really kind of vocalizing now how easy it is to be healthy, and creating the space where it's really, really easy to do. Because unfortunately, sometimes if it's not top of your priority, it's very hard for someone to adopt that new habit. It has to be a focus. It has to be a real individual concern. And so you've got to create the space for people to do that. And then in our boxes, I think you asked what we kind of put in ours. So we mix and match snacks all the time, and every month we kind of look to integrate and change new snacks. But we have, our boxes at the minute, most of the time is a 10-item snack box. You've got 2 drinks in there. You've got a coffee from a great supplier that we know, that I knew firsthand in Bristol, who also co-founded a company I used to work with, Helpfulpeeps Bristol. A great supplier. We know the brand, we know the ingredients, we know their messaging, we know what they're trying to do and who they're trying to target. You've got other bars in the box like Rhythm 108, which is another brand that's growing. It's like, and they're very simple. It's a brownie that sort of takes away all of the bad ingredients and shows you, when you break it down to base level, I think it's about 7 or 8 ingredients in this bar, and it tastes amazing. And the feedback on it has just been brilliant. And there's a few other snacks that are similar, and again, just kind of using these very, very simple ingredients to break it down. And as I said before, we have that list that we verify the snacks by, but that's just at the snack level. But as I say, it's creating that structure and facility in a workplace that gets rid of temptation, removes those barriers to entry of eating healthy, removes the idea that it's too expensive or it's too much effort to eat healthy, because it's really not when it comes down to it. And actually, one of the hardest things at this moment in time, which takes that bit more effort, but most places now you can do quite a good food shop, a healthy organic food shop, if you go to the right places, for probably cheaper than you could a normal shop. But again, it's those barriers to entry, it's the changing of the messaging, it's the simplifying the healthy living, and it's just showing people that it's really easy. But it takes support from all round. As you said in your meeting, you can't have a lunch and learn and then offer a completely counterintuitive snack that doesn't really align with it. It takes an all-round approach.
It does. Absolutely. That's definitely the mantra of this podcast, is everybody has to be involved. And I go back to the executive always saying, do I have to take responsibility for yet another thing? Yes, you do. But again, you build that when everybody's involved and you build it with the commitment that everyone's involved, eventually it's no different than delegating anything. You trust now that you've put this wonderful program in place, everybody's committed to it, and you allow individual responsibility. So I love that. Thank you for telling us what's in your box. I know people were going to be interested in, hearing kind of the contents of it.
Yeah, for sure. And as you say, in the show notes, I'm happy to share all the ingredients we have and the snacks we have and the ingredients that's in them and why we choose them and stuff. That's all part of what we do. So we're more than happy to share that and spread the brand messaging.
Yes, absolutely. We want to have all of your links to anything you think is important that our listeners should hear about.
Awesome.
And so this has been great. We're about at the end of our time here, Sonny, but there's always one question I ask at the end is there anything you think needed to be said that we did not say? I
think there's one thing potentially we could touch upon that I think is important to get out in terms of something else we look at here at Snackcess, and it's something that my co-founder actually made me realize more so than I was quite aware of. And it's really the environmental impact of eating well is really, it's second to none. And there's more and more information out there about how important it is to live kind of with regenerative farming. And, there's a lot of methods and ways we can live and encourage a more sustainable living, especially with regards to just nutrition. If we change the way we eat, it has such a profound impact on the environment and the world we live in and our impact on the world we're going to leave behind for people to come. And it's food is such a great place to change that. And it's such a drastic place that really needs to change that because it's so, regenerative farming methods are kind of needed now more than ever. And it's definitely something that we look at when we look at the snacks we put in our box and the additional sort of coupons and discounts we offer our community. It's a big part of us here. And, there's so many people out there. Mark Hyman, and he's just wrote the book, The Food Fix. Really, really important people at the forefront of what they're doing. And it's really good if you get the time to just kind of learn how much of an impact healthy eating could have for the planet as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's an additional perspective on things because people are looking at ways. They're trying to find ways that they can be, again, proactive about stuff. Our food is definitely important. I've been preaching that, obviously, having a nutrition background, I've been preaching that for years about things we need to watch out for in our foods. Not just things that, like not eating sugar is, obviously one we all know we shouldn't be doing a lot of. However, there's a lot of other things that are in our foods that are toxic that we really should be watching for. That's a whole nother show. But,
sure.
But yes, definitely, I would encourage everyone to definitely go to the show notes and look at the links that Sonny's going to put there. Looking at ingredients, again, another thing I used to pound on was be a label reader. And everybody says, I can't go through the grocery store every time I go and read every label, right? But it doesn't take that long. Actually, it may take 2 or 3 times of you going and reading labels until you find out what it is that you want and is acceptable for you to buy. That's satisfactory for you, right? And and then pretty soon you go through a grocery store and you know it all. But label reading is very, very important. So
really important.
So with this having simple ingredients, you'll start to understand what things are good for you and what's not, especially when you can grab something like, say, what's in Sonny's box and hold it to, say, something you already bought at the store and see, that this thing has 15 things you can't describe and the number 1 is sugar. So that's important too. I do think that that's very important.
It's really important. That can't be underestimated.
Yeah. So just a last thought there. So with that said, Sonny, thank you so much for being a guest today. I really enjoyed our interview, and thank you so much for just doing what you're doing and making it important in the workplace for healthy living.
No worries at all. And thank you ever so much for having me on. It's been really, really good.
Great. Thank you so much, Sonny. This is the close of the Happy Healthy Workplace podcast. Check the show notes for links to connect with Sonny and for the resources that we mentioned in the podcast. And if you love what you hear on this podcast, please email feedback to me at Kimberly@thehappyhealthyworkplace.com. That's Kimberly@thehappyhealthyworkplace.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future shows. That's a wrap for today. The Happy Healthy Workplace podcast is now complete. Be sure to subscribe and join us weekly for secrets, solutions, or strategies that help you create a profitable business where people really want to work. This is Kimberly Ficklin, wishing you a happy, healthy day.